So hi, how's it going? Can you tell
Very,
me
very
a little
well.
about
Thank you for
yourself
having me.
and your books?
Yep. So over in Australia, so a little bit delay, I think, with our messaging here. But my name is Lisa Fail, and I'm the author of The Adventures of Stormy Normie, which is a children's chapter book series set here in Australia. And they're an early reader, so they've got bigger words for the kids who are just starting to learn to read. So there's 3 books in the series at the moment, and the fourth one is going to come out in November this year.
That sounds lovely. And what would you say was your first spark that told you that you wanted to be an author?
I actually have an all-consuming passion for horses and horse riding. The horse that my stories are based on, the story, was actually forced to retire quite early. He had arthritis in his hocks, and that kind of threw me back a bit. I didn't know what to do with all his energy and all this time I used to horse ride with. So I actually took to writing the books are all based on adventures that him and I had together, all except for book 4. So there was only ever going to be 3 books in the series until I had some fans ask me, Stormy Normie loses his mum in the first book. When does he get reunited with her? So book 4, Stormy Christmas Surprise, is going to come out in November this year.
And they look like really good books too. I mean, I've read them. They're very interesting and they're really good for children's books, in my opinion, anyways. Um, why do you think horse stories resonate so well with like children?
I think animal stories do, but there's so many kids who horses are just out of their reach, and that was exactly my story. My parents could never afford a horse for me growing up, so I'm sure my husband would have wished they did, because maybe I wouldn't still be in love with horses now, out of it. But I never did, and I think some of us just are still big horse kids deep down. My 73-year-old neighbour is one of the first people to see this book when it comes out because she just loves horse books.
I think I've ridden a horse maybe once or twice. It hasn't been much. I think I might go back on eventually one day in the future. I don't know much about horses, unfortunately. Um, who would you
And
say?
that's a lot of expensive exercise.
Mhm. Oh yeah, definitely. I like animals. I'm a really big animal loving fan, especially tigers. I've written a whole article when I was in fourth grade about saving tigers. So, that's just how I am with animals. Who would you say are your like favorite children's authors?
Oh, and I'm at quite a lot of children's books, obviously being a children's author. And I'm trying to remember the name of the lady. My first book was Store Buddies. That was always my favorite as a kid. And I remember her last name is Pollock, but I just can't remember her first name. But growing up, the story that always stuck with me, and it was a horse and other characters, obviously in a stall, growing up together, and it still resonates with. So I guess that's why I started writing children's books, because with animals, because that's what I can relate to.
Oh, yeah, I used to write children's book when I was like in fifth grade. They were not that good, to be honest. I used to read them to kindergartners. They found the doll.
Well, when I was in grade 7, my mum actually got called to the school because the teacher thought I'd plagiarized a story that I had to write for school. And it was based on my cousin's farm, where we used to explore and make up names for all the different places on the property. And yeah, mum got pulled in, and I was so nervous. I'd never been in trouble before. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh, what's going to happen? And mum's like, afterwards, why didn't you tell me it was just about, your auntie and uncle's property? And I'm like, I was too nervous to say anything. But yeah, so mine were okay, I think.
Yeah, I test tried my books with kindergartners. They did not like it, and that told me enough. I was like, "Yep, children's writing isn't for me." I suppose. I used to write about a little boy named David, and like the lessons he learned. So
And kids are honest. I love that about them. They are just blatantly honest. I love it.
Yeah, true. I like writing, but I mean, I might try children's book one more time in the future, but as far as I know, not for me.
Yep. And you just got to figure out where your strengths are and go there, don't you?
Yep. And now the name Stormy Normie, where would you say that that came from?
The horse that the book's actually based off, his name is he was named by the farmer Peter, who actually featured in book 1 and will be featuring again in book 4. And a friend of mine said he liked another horse she knew whose name was Norman. So she used to call him Normie. So that's how Stormy Normie sort of cottoned on. Yeah. So it's completely based on a real life story. As I said, other than book 4, we never go back to try and find his mum. Yeah.
Well, I love that. Like I said, the books have been so far so good. So can't wait for book 4. It's gonna sound really amazing to me. Um, and what like book was the most fun to write in your opinion?
Actually, book 4 was, because I think I was so close and connected with book 1, 2, and 3. I remember when I bought the first book to my editor, there was not enough. There was not enough story at all. There was something like 8,000 words and ended up being just over 11,000 words. Book 2 was the Quilty, so 100 miles and 24-hour horse ride. And that was so close to my heart because he was always told he was never going to do an event like that. And I end up taking something like a 20,000 word book, and she turned around and add that. You can't add that. She culled so much out of it. And I honestly, when I got the first edit through, I actually had to take a few days of relaxing and calming down because I'm like, she's ruined my story. And obviously, we know moving forward, she made the story what it needed to be, not what it was. And I wanted to be very close to the truth. And book 3 was when I started to venture out a bit because Storm and I, we went and did Western Pleasure and we did a bit of reining, but the actual state championships that I talk about that I went to, I didn't take Storm. I took another trainer's horse, and he's never actually competed professionally as a reining horse. So that would mix what was fiction and what was non-fiction and add them together. So I had a lot more fun. And it was a bit like a Three Little Bears. The first story didn't have enough. The second story had too much. And the third story was spot on. Where book 4 from start to finish is completely made up. And I just had a blast. Probably the last 2 books I've had so much fun writing them.
Right, that's amazing. Yeah, and you just you gotta try things, I guess. I mean, if I publish books, the first ones probably won't be that good. But that's also another problem that I have because I've written over 18 stories, and unfortunately, I have not published one of them because I am very hard on myself. So I'm constantly rewriting over and over again. And I've been writing these since I was like 6 years old. So
Yeah, and that's exactly right. I've had people ask me because I've learned so much over the last years, would I rewrite book 1? And to me, I think it's nice to have that starting point. It's nice to be able to reflect back and go, no, that's where I started. And I could have done better now writing it. But when I wrote that, that was the person I was. So I actually enjoy having that sort of, I wasn't the best writer, and I probably will reflect back on book 4 in years to come and think, oh, I could have done. We grow with each one, don't we?
yep. And how do you think that you like developed Stormy's personality throughout the books?
I think because even when you're riding and you spend so much time with a horse like that, so we did endurance, so we did competitively, we did over 3,000 kilometers, and that's without any of the other training. You pretty much nearly double that with the amount of training you do to prepare for those sort of competitions. So I kind of already have an idea of what his personality is. It's just putting a voice behind it, and that's, I had a lot of fun with book 4 because his little brothers come into it, and one of them is really super cheeky. So I've had a lot of fun putting his personality together because he's one of those horses that he can't not be near you. He will leave everyone else to come up and be in your space, where Stormy Normie is very selective with who he'll actually spend time with. So it's been quite nice having those two different characters. And then there's the third brother, who he's only quite young, and he's actually quite sweet. So it was nice to actually find the emotions of each horse and put them in a character that the kids can relate to as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's very beautiful. Sorry, I just forgot the question I was gonna ask you. I had like a really good one. Um, so I know that you said that you write your books and they're based off of like real life things, like the horse was real and all that stuff. And but you also talk about like real life like topics, like deep topics. Can we like brush upon what topics you talk about in each book and what like inspired you to write those specific topics?
Yeah, absolutely. So book one really focuses on Stormy. Normally doesn't look like the other horses in the paddock. He's very different. So I say it's a bit like an ugly duckling story, but he's a horse, not a swan, so he can't change. Self-acceptance. He gets quite picked on for what he looks like. And there's a nice in the paddock, very wise, who actually gets him to embrace what makes him unique. And I think that's very important. I think growing up, the ugly duckling story was a great story, but we can't all become beautiful. We have, and that's what we need to look at, not what's in the mirror, but what is actually fundamentally ourselves. So that's why it was important for me to put that in book one, because Storm is really the worst put together horse you will ever see. He has a big head, big ears. He's got more muscle in his front than he does in his back, and he's got what we call a roached back. So it's quite straight, and it's if you talk to the old cowboys, they'll tell you they'll have a roached back horse over any other horse because they'll be determined to get through the day with you, and they're just strong. Exactly what he's been for me. And with book two, everyone doubted him. He wasn't the right type of horse to do a quilty, and I was told from the very first competition that don't expect him to get through a quilty with you. So, spoiler alert, he got through a qualifier, a state championship, and two, along with a 400-kilometre marathon, which was 5 days of 80 Ks per day. So I think it's really important for kids. And I'm sort of one of those people that if you tell me I can't do it, that's when I put my heels in and I try my best to get it done. I don't believe you can't do things. There's things that aren't right for your personality, and I agree with that. But just tell me that because of the way I look, I can't do something. So I think very important message for the kids. And, it's about that perseverance. You might not get it the first time. And that's exactly true in the story. The first time I tried to qualify to do a 160-kilometre ride, Storm actually could not. He went to sleep and he didn't get up at the 120K mark. And I just turned around and withdrew him. Important to put goals out there, but what actually eventuates may not there's more time in the future to work toward those things. And then with book three, the very important lesson I wanted for kids in book three was mess it up and learn. Reining is a very technical sport, and it's something I had to learn when I was training for the sport is get it wrong to get it right. As long as you learn from your mistakes, it's okay to make mistakes. I think kids these days have a lot of trouble just accepting that they get things wrong. It's mess it up and learn, get it wrong, improve got wrong until you can eventually get it right. And another spoiler alert, towards the end, Stormy Normie has to actually retire because of his injury, exactly what happened before we got to do some reining. And it's a message to kids that sometimes you set goals and you head in a direction and life has other plans. So it's resetting your true north and heading off where that new true north is. Yeah, so they're the little messages I like to put behind the story, a little carry with them.
Yeah, and I agree with those messages. I feel like they definitely are very important. Like for example, people with disabilities like myself, we may struggle a bit, and unfortunately I did see like certain like movies or shows, books or whatever, where the person who has a disability, like all of a sudden at the end they don't have a disability and everything's right in the world. And like unfortunately that's not really how it is in real life. You kind of just got to learn to deal with it. And not everybody with disabilities has superpowers either. Like we can't just do everything. We do have strengths. Don't get me wrong, we have strengths, but it's not always that simple that we can just put our mind to it and just do something. But we can try our best, though. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's, we've got to move away from having perfect characters that everything resolves in the end, because that's not life, and we're sort of giving kids the wrong meaning there. Like as I said, the ugly duckling story, that was a great story growing up, but Swan, and I have to, like everyone, you have to learn to accept you are who you are, and I may not be a supermodel, but I could be an author. Who knows?
Mm-hmm. And helping children along the way with your amazing books.
Thank you.
Yeah, I also had like certain issues with some books. Like when I was a child, obviously I loved the books. Like you don't really see it from like an adult point of view. Like what was my favorite books when I was younger? Like the Porky Little Puppy, Shika Shika Boom Boom, Dr. Seuss books, like those sort of things. But like for example, the Rainbow Fish, that one book where the rainbow fish literally has to take apart what makes him special to make everyone else feel happy. Like I just feel like that's also not too good of a lesson. That like there's some books that just don't have that great of lessons in them. They're good books though.
Absolutely.
Just
And as you said, as a kid, you don't see it any, do you?
mm-hmm. um was there any themes that you wanted to include but you just decided against it?
Yes and no. I didn't decide against. My editor actually recorded book two. I actually we passed away, which I thought it was very important. It's something we don't talk about enough is death, and accepting that and how you move on from that. But my editor said, if you kill a dog, no one will ever forgive you. So she made me remove that completely. So I think it's still a very important message, and it's kind of something I've woven through my next book series, which will come out next year, which is Eric's Adventures, but in a less subtle, attached to the character that it happens to. But as the story evolves, allows kids to understand that the process of grieving and still living your life after I've passed away.
Yeah, death is a very tough topic to hit upon, especially when it's dogs. People really like dogs, so they get upset. But unfortunately, dogs do die in day to day. Your animals do pass away, which is really difficult. My cat, he got sick recently, and that was extremely painful to deal with. And I just feel like there should be more tools for people to like deal with that as well. So sometimes those topics are very important to learn because as a person myself, I don't really know how to deal with death, and I never actually dealt with death. I didn't have like anybody close to me die. I mean, I had some friends, but like I wouldn't say like anybody super close to me, so I never really dealt with it. But I know that I'm not good with death and don't know how to deal with it. So I feel like those topics are important to talk about, even though they're really difficult.
Yeah, absolutely, and exactly like I sort of grew up with animals and pets, and our very first dog was a cocker spaniel. Her name was Lassie, and Mum bought her when I was sort of born, so I grew up with her my entire life, and she died when she was 15, and that was sort of the loss I ever had as a child. And long after that, I actually lost two of my grandparents. But it was that loss of the dog and learning how to work through that, which actually helped me to lose other loved ones. So I think it's a very important lesson for kids. Touched on it in my next book series, which is hopefully from what the first edit pass through has come back. I've done it well, so well, fingers crossed.
And what would you say like your writing routine looks like?
So I brought along today. This is actually my writing journal. So every idea, concept, sentence, chapter gets written down in here, and I don't have a structure. There's not sort of a Friday afternoon at a certain time that I sit down and I handwrite a lot of my notes. I like a pacer. I'm not sure if you guys call them a pacer, mechanical pen.
Yeah.
So that's yeah. Yeah. So that's what I write all my stories with at the start, and then I then go to an actual computer. And sometimes I can just write ideas and concepts down, and then eventually it'll just be written actually on the computer itself. But it all starts with handwritten notes, and it could be the majority of the time. The best ideas come to me when I'm more gardening or doing something where everything else is sort of switched off. I know in book 3, the bully from book 1 comes back, and that was an actual idea I had while mowing one day. I thought, oh, we should bring the bully back, and we should actually finish that confrontation and put underneath it. So yeah, that's how my writing starts. If I feel like writing for the day, I won't. I sat down today and did a full edit. I've just had some beta readers come back with Eric's Adventures, so I did a full edit with what they've said, but I've just put little comments on the Word document because I wasn't ready to sit down and rewrite it yet. So that's sort of a bit of my process is I write the whole story and I'll send it off to one of my beta readers and just get an idea of what they think. And then from there, I'll write notes if I'm not ready to actually tackle it straight away, because if I'm not in the right mindset, my writing's not very good.
I totally get that. I'm dyslexic, so some of my writing isn't the best, but that's why I also struggle a little. Um, Besides like your like beta readers, do you have like any like writer like how do you say that word? Like partners who like critique your stuff?
Yeah, so I actually have a local writers group at our library that meets every third Friday of the month. And they're brilliant because in class we have these little writing exercises, and a couple of us actually published authors. So usually when they give us a writing exercise, we're actually writing parts of our next book somewhere in there, so that we can just use that. But they're proofreaders. They'll actually read through. They're very critical, and it's great just to be amongst a group of people who enjoy writing as much as I do.
It's pretty nice. Yeah, I took a creative writing class for my college because I'm in college. I took one of those, and it definitely was my favorite class because I got to write more parts of my book and like expand my world. Through my creative writing class, I actually made one of my favorite characters, Amora Montel. So I think it like classes, like partners, like meeting, like those things, they're extremely helpful for writers because it definitely helped me. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and see our writing group when they meet, the librarian actually get all some sort of information session about some sort of topic, or he'll have a guest speaker come in, and then the rest is homework that we read out or a little writing exercise, and he sends us home with exercises, and we get the email a couple of days that the writing class is on, and whoever's done their homework and submitted it, he'll send it out so you can have a read of that before you come to class. It's really so well. It's, as I said, it's just nice to be around like-minded people.
That sounds pretty cool. Maybe I should go speak to my library about starting something. I love that. Like I like having that little community. Ooh. Mm, we went through almost every question. What's the most important thing that you think that like every kid should know about horses?
Horse, what they call divine mirrors. How you're feeling, they will reflect back to you. And I have to admit, my old boy, he knows me very well, so he's quite good with me. But I remember if I was having a bad day, he would tell me before I would step out there, the energy and everything that you sort of exert when you're walking towards a horse, he would start stepping backwards because he's like, oh, that's too much energy. There's something not right. And I'd have a look at him and go, oh, because my books also have a lot of mindfulness, so grounding and breathing exercises, as well as gratitude. And it's something like you really have to ground yourself before you go and interact with a horse, because if you go with the wrong sort of attitude, they pick up on it. They reckon it takes them 3 seconds to figure out whether they can put it over you or not. So it's very important to not go with too much energy and with a full heart, basically.
Oh yeah, that definitely something I didn't know. Like I said, don't know a lot about horses. I want to. I study so many animals. I'm surprised that horses aren't one of them. So that's a good fact to know.
Well, there's plenty.
So I know that you hired an illustrator to help out with like drawings and stuff. Can we like get to know a little bit more about them?
Yes. So I actually, and I do school presentations and I take in artwork that my amazing friend did. And when I saw her artwork, I said to her, will you come and be my artist for my book? And she's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And months and months and months dragged on. And the artwork she was producing was like, it was not her at all. And I just said to her, Yvonne, do you want to do this anymore? And she goes, no, I don't. I said, do you want me to ask Amy? And she goes, please, please ask Amy. So Amy Rennie is a good friend of mine who lives up in Cairns, so far north Queensland, where two of the books are. And she is not a full-time artist. She's just a friend of mine. She just does it on the side. She does a lot of portraits. And so I asked her to come along for the project, and she come in full steam ahead, and the work she did was amazing for book one. I sent her a photo of what I roughly wanted and a bit of an idea. And the artwork she came up with, if you have a look on my Facebook page, I probably should pin this, but I've got a video where you can see from the very bare canvas where she just starts the background and slowly layers it and layers it and layers it until we get, so it's a whole painting that she does. And then each chapter, I'll see if I can find one. It's at the beginning of each chapter. So each chapter has a little picture. And I remember my editor saying, can you get Amy just to do like 4 or 5 and we'll just scatter them throughout the book? And I'm not doing that. There's going to be one for every single chapter. So it's quite cute because when readers are reading it now, they're sort of looking at, oh, what's the next? We call them in the industry, but there's these little pictures at the start of each chapter. The kids say they absolutely love getting to the next chapter to see what the next picture is. It relates to what that actual chapter is about. And I love that Amy reads my books and actually interprets the images. And I never had much of an impact on that. I let her creative mind work. And even with book 4, because she's just started the painting now, and she said to me, I really want to put Stormy Domini's mum on the cover. What do you think about that? And I said, well, it's Christmas in Australia, so just make it Australian Christmassy. Otherwise, do what you want. So it'll be interesting to see what she comes up with.
I definitely love that. Yeah, a good illustrator definitely helps the book process. And like I said, like she did amazing. I like saw the photos; they're really good. So I thought that it was a really creative design. And well, if it's a children's book, you have to have photos. Um, that draws them in really well. So, um, speaking of that, how do you think those illustrations like influence how the children like read your book?
Yeah, I think they do, and that's the feedback I've been getting. So book 1, there is a print. You can print it in color or black and white. It's just because it costs so much to print with Amazon if it is in black and in color. But the paintings that Amy did just look beautiful in color compared to when they're printed in black and white. And because of that, we've now changed it so you can just buy a black and white one, which doesn't remove from the story at all. But I just know I have these open up on a bookstall. People just go, wow, because the colors are so vibrant. And all those pictures you see inside my book, I actually have the artwork at home, and all the artwork sitting in my dining room, and it's all up on the walls. And it just, some of them, when the light hits them in a certain way, the color reflects back, and they're just brilliant.
That's great. I love that for you. That's amazing, and just beautiful. One day I'm gonna have art all over my walls too. What like age group would you say is the book? Because obviously it's for children, but like what specific age group?
So it's an early reader. So when they start going from picture book into actually independent reading. So I say 6 to 12-year-olds, but it does depend on the child. So I have been getting a lot of feedback recently of dyslexia who have trouble reading are finding them quite well, easy to read. As I said, my 70-year-old neighbour, she's the first one to line up for it. She said at least she doesn't need her glasses because the writing is a bit larger. Ideally, it's 6 to 12-year-old, depending on the child, because as you kids at 6 are reading far beyond this, and some kids at 12 are just up to that. So it does on the child, but that's a rough age bracket.
Yeah, that's another thing that I liked about the book was the how big the words were. Because I mean, you can see I'm wearing glasses. I am blind in this eye. I can hardly see in this eye. So I love reading, big reader. But unfortunately, I need my font to be a big. So if the book has very tiny fonts, even if the book seems really interesting and it makes me feel bad, I unfortunately can't really read it all like that because I won't be able to see it.
Yep. No, completely understand that. And I've had a parent reach out to me recently because their child was a bit hesitant, so they only bought book 1 off me. But they read the book in one night, and they said, this is amazing because this child wasn't a confident reader. So if you have a child that's not confident, this is definitely a book to start them on because it does build their confidence. The sentences are shorter, the chapters are shorter, so they get a lot more reward, sort of 1,000 to 1,500 words per chapter. So it doesn't take them as long to get through each one, which is quite rewarding for kids.
Yeah, I definitely agree on that. And you're like talking about all these interactions you got with like people and stuff like that, which are just brilliant. Which one would you say is your like favorite interaction you ever got around your book?
I have to say it would be the middle-aged lady. I was heading down to Victoria to do a 7-day horse ride, so I got onto the local bookstore at Mansfield and I said, I'll come down and do a book signing. Can I send you some books ahead of time? And the bookstore owner was very supportive. It was lovely. But she literally got the books in that day, and she had a lady come in who is middle-aged who hadn't been told in grade 2, you're dyslexic, you're never going to be able to read, just forget about it. So she hadn't read for most of her life, and her friend was with her trying to support her, and her book won. And that night her friend got a text message from her and she said, I'm up to chapter 4. I absolutely love it. I've never read this so much in my life. So her friend come in the next book 2, and it was only book 2 was out at that stage. But that getting an email from that bookstore owner that my books have made a difference for someone who was told never to read, you're never going to read, give it up. That is rewarding. Book 1 and book 2 have both won an award just at the end of last year. But I have to say that email was the most rewarding email that I ever received. Right, of receiving awards, but the fact that my book actually made a difference, that's huge.
I love that so much. Yeah, that must have been like that must have felt very good. I would have felt very proud of myself on that. So that's just great news. Um, we are down to our last 3 questions, unfortunately. So sad. Enjoying my time here.
So am I.
So, I mean, you already talked about this a bit, but like, what can we hope for more the future of Stormy Normie?
Well, it'll be book 4. So Stormy Normie's going to go back to McKinley. So Farmer Peter is going to come back into it. Jacqueline, the wise old Manny, the gelding who babysat him as a foal, and we're going to go looking for his mum. Now, I have left a couple of Easter eggs in there for a book series I've just started. I'm only 10,000 words in, but it's promising to be possibly a middle grade at this stage, 6-book series, and it's definitely about Brumby. So see if you catch it in book 4.
I can't wait for book 4 to come out. Do you have a date that you're thinking?
Yeah, I've got the 6th November penciled in. So as I said, Amy's on with the artwork. I've got a new editor. So this I've been published before now. So the Rudy pen with Juliet, she has been absolutely amazing. I took her an A4 piece of paper and 3 beautiful books for me. And I've said to her, she's my mum. when it comes to the book world, and I'm just about to let the hand go and self-publish this first book, which will be book 4. So I've got a new editor, which is another Australian editor, Rachel over in Western Australia, and we've been doing wonders with book 4 and Eric's adventures together in the background. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to bringing book 4 out.
Me too. I'm also looking forward to that. I'm gonna be
6th of November. So 6th of November is the date that we've got.
I'm definitely going to try my best purchasing that on that day, just so I can have it on my nice shelf.
Thank you.
What advice would you give to someone who wants to be like a young adult author, children's or young adult?
Yeah, you just need to read a lot of books, and it doesn't have to be in because mine are obviously horse books, but you just need to read a lot of books in that sort of age group to understand. You have to make the words a bit smaller, so understand what kids at that age can understand, and also what's trending. So, for example, Stormy Normie, his nickname in the paddock is Fat Boy, because he is, no matter what time of year, the fattest horse you've ever seen. He's never been slim. Even doing 100-mile races, he's always been this little tubby bubby. And book 2, I tried to make that his nickname is Fat Boy, and my editor said, you cannot call anyone fat in a book. And I'm like, but that's his nickname. Like, you have to call him Fat Boy. So I think we've called him Heavy Mule as his nickname, but it's the other thing. So there's a culture around certain terminology and certain themes that you need to really be aware of as well, not just how to write for those sort of genres.
Yeah, I got to kind of learn the sensitivity stuff. Though when it comes to animals, I don't know. A lot of people call their animals stuff like Fat Boy, so that seems pretty regular as far as animals.
I know.
Well, our last question is actually like a 2-part question, but I asked this at every end of the interview so that everybody's aware. Where can everybody who's watching follow you, and where can they buy your books at?
So my books are published through Amazon and Ingram Spark. So anywhere they stock, Barnes and Noble, Amazon, obviously. I've also got website www.lisafale.com.au. I'm only sending books to Australia at the moment, and we're just waiting to see with tariffs. I know America's just turned around and said we can't send a gift, just pay a commercial fee now when we send books there. But what I'm going to try and do is have it so that I can print from one of the printing distributors and send it to the American audience. It won't be signed, but you won't be paying $50 odd. So I'm just working on that at the moment. But yeah, they're available to buy books online as well. And I'm on Lisa Fale Author. I'm on Facebook and Instagram, which is very similar with what I do with both of those accounts. And the other one, we got a visitor.
Yeah, the bird really wants to perch on my thing.
And if you want to see the Stormy Normie and his brothers, I always do little videos, and my little dog Toffee, they're always up on TikTok. So TikTok, it's just a heap of videos of us hanging out. So yeah,
I can't wait. I'm gonna check those out. I can't wait to see it. Love animals. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you so much for coming and meeting with me. I had a grand time talking to you about this and about horses. Learned some new things.
I will talk horses all day long. You're lucky you've got me where I actually have only given you a little bit, because I'll run a mile if you let.
Oh yeah, and we're supposed to be doing that trivia about horses. I need to get that going. I don't know enough about horses though. That's the only reason why I haven't started it. So I don't know a lot about horses. I have to learn first.
Yeah, let me know if you want some questions I can them your way.
Okay, yeah, I don't want any wrong information going out, you know.
Because horse people know.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Well, yeah, so thank you very much. I'm very happy with this. I'll be sending you the videos, so have a good night. Well, it's night for me. It's probably
Thank
like
you.
daytime for you.
Yeah, it's lunchtime for me on Sunday. So, but thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Not a problem. Have a good rest of your day.
See ya. Bye.